When we talk about Japanese bladed weapons, most people immediately think of the katana. However, it might surprise you to learn that the katana wasn't the most popular blade. It actually took a back seat to another example of Eastern weaponry, the wakizashi. While the katana, as a product of a later era and an evolution of the tachi, undoubtedly became a symbol of the samurai, it wasn't the only weapon in their arsenal. In fact, for much of Japan's history, bladed weapons weren't exclusive to the samurai class. When it comes to the wakizashi, many picture something short and secondary. But it's important to note that the shortest blade in the slightly curved, single-edged ninjato family is the tanto. With a blade length under 30 centimeters, the tanto has its own category and isn't considered a knife. On the other hand, if the blade is between 30 and 60 centimeters, then we're talking about the wakizashi. Wakizashi with shorter blades were called ko-wakizashi, while those with longer blades were known as o-wakizashi. Keep in mind that in Japanese tradition, any blade over 50 centimeters is classified as long-bladed. Thanks to Japan's love for long handles, some wakizashi could reach an overall length of 70 to 80 centimeters. This essentially made them comparable in size to European one-handed swords or sabers. When articles or videos draw parallels between swords, sabers, and Japanese weapons, the focus is usually on the katana. But perhaps it would make more sense to look at the wakizashi as the foundational example. As I've mentioned, this particular weapon seems to have been the most widely used among Japanese blades. This popularity was due not only to the fact that, like the katana, it was part of the samurai's arsenal, forming the daisho pair with the katana, but also because other classes, such as craftsmen, merchants, and wealthy townsfolk, were often armed with it. That said, there's a catch. Commoners typically carried the shorter ko-wakizashi rather than the longer bladed versions. It's worth noting that this wasn't battlefield weaponry, though, to be fair, the katana wasn't exactly designed for the battlefield either. Japanese bladed weapons are often associated with traits like lightweight, speed, and exceptional sharpness. However, these features don't align with the kind of swordplay we're used to seeing in movies. Striking an opponent's weapon, armor, or even certain parts of the body can quickly dull the blade and could even damage it. The longer the blade, the more strain it's subjected to during combat. This is one reason why the peak development of 1.5-handed and 2-handed swords came during the late Middle Ages, as metallurgy advanced. A wakizashi, with its relatively short blade, was cheaper to produce and less likely to endure excessive stress when striking. And while I have no doubt that the East developed intricate techniques for everything, from fists and stools to swords, let me emphasize again, the wakizashi wasn't intended for traditional swordsmanship. Sure, there are schools where it's used in the offhand alongside a katana, but that's not the main point. Its shorter blade meant it could be drawn faster than a katana. Its thinner design allowed for greater sharpness, lighter weight, and better speed. Plus, its slight curve made it capable of not just slashing but also delivering highly effective thrusting attacks. At the same time, the long handle made it easy to grip and added to the weapon's overall length, which increased its effective striking range. In many ways, it's even more suited than the katana for quick, sudden attacks, a kind of rapid knife fight where the outcome was decided in seconds. The name wakizashi means inserted at the side, which refers to the way this weapon was carried. It was also known as the guardian of honor. This comes from the samurai tradition of leaving their katana or tachi at the entrance when entering homes or unfamiliar spaces, but always keeping the shorter blade at their side. It's said that even in the imperial palace, a wakizashi was allowed. The wakizashi often wasn't as elaborately decorated as its longer relatives, looking much simpler, like any utilitarian tool, which among other things, the samurai could use to decapitate an enemy. They had a thing for that. And if things went south, it was also the blade for disemboweling oneself. Interestingly, the semi-mythical ninja swords, ninjato or ninjaken, were essentially variations of the wakizashi. Overall, this weapon was designed to be compact enough for everyday carry, practical for close quarters, and still capable of delivering strikes at a longer range compared to daggers. In some ways, European analogs might be messers, often used by craftsmen for self-defense. However, European blades were heavier, designed for fencing, including blade-on-blade combat, and featured more developed handguards. The wakizashi, on the other hand, was built for striking first or launching a quick counterattack after dodging an opponent's sudden blow. So, its slimmer design and minimal hand protection shouldn't come as a surprise. All in all, the Wakizashi was a compact, even faster and arguably sharper weapon than the katana. Yet despite its practical advantages, it often finds itself overshadowed by its flashier, more famous sibling.